But when somebody of importance is coming, you want to get everything right. And guess what? Our dad's coming home.
Yeah.
And there ain't no denying it. You can take this corona thing how you want to take it. I take it as the end of the world. Not just because of the corona thing, but the end of the world started happening the moment that Jesus was crucified on the cross. That was the beginning of the end. That was about 2,500 years ago. We are in the end times. That's what my sermon is going to be about today. I'm just touching on subjects because if anybody's ever done a study on this, I could speak for 40 days and 40 nights straight and still not cover everything that the Bible has to say about the end times. If you don't have your life straight yet, I'm telling you, buddy, this is the time to get it done. Me and my brother Levi, we always used to say that if we were going to die, we would want to die slowly because we were raised Christian, and at least if we had that slow death, we'd have that 15 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes or whatever to confess all our sins, get right with God so we'd be able to go into heaven. That was our logic of thinking. And it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but most of us are living our lives that same exact way. I'm telling you right now, if you got a beef with somebody, squash it, clear it up. If you got problems in your life that you keep on putting off that you need to fix them. If you don't know what you need to work on in your life after you do your self-inventory, ask a woman that loves you, she will tell you. And then follow those instructions. It might be a wife, might be a mother, might be your friend's wife, but trust me, if they love you, they will tell you. Guys, not so much. We'll just be all like, oh, you're fine. You're okay. Walk it off. So I got 12 signs. There was way more signs. This is just a quick, condensed sermon. Well, it's quick and condensed as I do quick and condensed. Quick and condensed for me. But if I knew that you guys didn't go to Sunday church this morning, I would have prepared a longer sermon so you'd get your fill, but oh well. Let's start off with Daniel chapter 12, verse 4. Now, Daniel is interesting, and if you're doing this study at home, I very much recommend that you read the chapter of Daniel and study the chapter of Daniel. For one, all of Daniel's prophecies up to this point have been true. There is not one prophecy that Daniel has said that has not come true, and most of those things have came true in the last 100 years. Which seems like a long time, but 100 years in the scope of 2,500 years is not a long time. The other thing about Daniel is all those prophecies are true. If you follow any prophecies or secular prophecies like Nostradamus, Nostradamus only got 70% of his prophecies right, and those 70% of those prophecies were based off the book of Daniel. The other 30% that he came up on his own are all falsehood, and none of them came true. So I'm just putting the emphasis, if you believe in God, or if you're on the fence about it, or if you don't believe everything in the Bible, facts are in the proof. Guy 4,000 years ago wrote everything, and it's happened in the last 4,000 years. Every single thing down to the dime. So please pay attention to Daniel. The first sign that we're going to cover today is in Daniel chapter 12, 4. It says, "But you, Daniel, roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the end of time. Many will go here and there to increase knowledge." Up until the last 150 years, 200 years, We did not have populations the way that we have populations today. Today we have Irish, German, people from all over the globe inhabit in the one place. That used to be a strange or rare occurrence. Not just that, but our modes of transportation were very, very slow. Now, I could be from here to Tokyo in 3.5 hours if I have enough money and enough resources. That's huge. That's one side of the globe to the other side of the globe in less time than it takes to cook a turkey. This is also going to be one of the deaths of us. If you watched it, or you've read of any of the other ends of civilization, and I'm going to be going through back to this a lot, back to the time of Noah, or back to the time of Babylon. Babylon was a very, very sophisticated city. It was one of the most sophisticated cities in the ancient time periods. Matter of fact, they built a building larger than we have ever been today. Nobody has built a building as big as they thought the Tower of Babel was. Even with all of our technology, we still cannot build one. They don't know exactly how tall it was, but they did do a thing in the footprint, and the size of the footprint is about the size of a small state, saying that when they said that it went up to the heavens and up to space, that it might have actually went up to the heavens and went up to space. They're in the same falsehood as we are. I didn't get scared about this coronavirus thing until I heard President Trump speak. And everything I agreed with until his last few words. And his last few words is, we can overcome anything, we can do anything, we can survive, nothing can take down America, nothing can take down the people. And that's the moment that I got scared. Once people are speaking in, what's it called, Wren? In absolutes, is the moment that you start getting scared. We are not invincible as a people, we are not invincible as a country, and something as small as a flu virus could take us all out. Or, like my mom always used to say, get your heart right, get everything straight, because even if you don't make it to the end of times, a car accident, a bullet, a flu. I'd once known a guy that tripped over a small dog and died. I mean, anything can be dangerous and fatal to you. So it's time to get your life right. We have more knowledge than we ever had before. Amen. There is no reason for anybody to be ignorant of anything, especially ignorant of Christ in this country. We were all born and raised with this Bible. Do you know, up until about 400 or 500 years ago, nobody had all this knowledge. We have more knowledge, and what do we do with it? We stack them up, they're gaining dust. If I had a time machine and went back 600 years and started passing these out, people would lose their minds. The mysteries, and Paul always talks about in his epistles, the mysteries of God. We have the answers to all the mysteries. He did not have this. But we do. And what do we do with it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We're using our knowledge for evil. We're not using our knowledge for good. It seems that we are, how many people we can help now? Or we destroy more people with the intelligence that we have as a nation. And this is prophesied in the end times. And it's going faster and faster. Jesus explained that the end times is going to be like birthing pains. My wife is, I wouldn't say having a difficult pregnancy, but it's been an uncomfortable pregnancy since the moment that we conceived, which is probably my fault because I also heard I was a very uncomfortable pregnancy. And also my daughter was a very uncomfortable pregnancy, so it probably has something to do with my genes. The farther that you get along, the more that the pains get intense. We are getting farther along into the end days, and we're starting to see everything speed up. To where traveling from one part of the globe to the other used to be an impossibility. is now almost an instant. I can go anywhere, anytime, any place in this world. And as time goes, even now, we can travel a lot faster than we could 20 years ago, and I guarantee in 5 years, we're going to be able to travel even faster. Because of the internet and everything, our access to knowledge has greatly increased in the past 20 years. And remember when you used to be able to BS about anything? You can't now because everybody's fact checking you. Everybody has access to knowledge. Let's go on and go to Revelations chapter 13, verse 17. Thirteen, 17. So the next sign is the ability to enforce the mark of the beast, so that they cannot buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. Now, if you don't know, I'm going to just real quick, and I'm just touching on stuff. In the end times, there's going to be what's called an Antichrist, or the beast, or whatever, rises up, and everybody's going to start following him, and that's when we're going to start seeing everything that changes. The mark of the beast used to be pretty much a mystery. It was even a mystery in the 1980s. And when debit cards first came out, everybody was, oh, the debit card is the mark of the beast, and da-da-da-da. But they're all like, how are you going to put a debit card in your hand, or how are you going to put a debit card in your forehead? We are there, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
We have the technology, and even more than us having the technology, we have the reason. If you take Jesus and God and everything out of this picture, getting a chip implanted into your hand or into your head would solve a lot of the world's problems today. It really would. Immigration issues, medical issues, financial issues, crime, all these things, it will. It will solve these problems that we have that we are so monumental today. It will. It will solve these problems. It will also be the end of the human race. It's a sad and it's a very, very scary thing if you do not have your life in order. Again, this is just another sign. Before, up until these last 10 years, actually up until these last 3 years, we had the idea of the technology, but we actually have the technology. And it's being implemented in different parts of the world right now. Not to the scale that we're going to see it, but most of you guys that seen the birth of the internet knows how fast and how much technology can impact our life, and how quickly it can impact our life. Remember when we were getting our free AOL minutes at Albertsons, and everybody was like, oh, this web thing is just a fad. You know, that's not going to affect anybody's life. I remember that. Try to live in this world now without it. It's insane. You can't. You can't go to school, you can't get a decent job, you can't do anything unless if you're internet savvy, unless if you're technology savvy. And this is something, again, back to the birthing pains, it happened quickly. I mean, you got to think how quickly this happened. We went from a personal computer in the 1960s being the size of this church to it being this big or even smaller. That's nuts. In 60 years, we've never seen anything move that fast. This is not a sign of the end times. You are absolutely crazy. We've never seen anything move this fast in life except for these things. And they're going really, really quickly. Let's go ahead and go to Revelation chapter 11, verse 18. And of course, there's all theories of how it's going to end and everything like that. The Bible pretty much lays it out pretty clear. If you go back into that book of Daniel that we were just in, he tells you He goes, Iran and Iraq take over Israel. That's what happens. Do you guys see that happening following the news? Oh yeah, it's a sure possibility, and it's going to happen quick. Like I said, do your studies. I'm just touching on this stuff. But it tells you how it's going to end, pretty much when it's going to end. It doesn't give you the minute or the hour, but man, we're in that decade. If we're not in that decade, we're definitely in that century. And a century ain't that long. It's really not. Remember when a year used to be a long time? Or 4 years used to be a long time? The older you get, the less those numbers mean anything. Well, think of the age of Christianity. The older we get, those numbers, that same year or 2 years starts meaning very, very much less and less. 11, 18. The nations were angry, and your wrath has come. The time has come for judging the dead, and for rewarding your servants and prophets, and your people who revere your name, both great and small, and for destroying those who destroy the earth. I don't know what you believe about global warming or any of that. Don't really care. We are destroying the earth. That you cannot deny. All the oil, all the pollutants. As a matter of fact, you dig deeper into this in the Revelations, it says all the fish in the sea, all the birds in the air, all the animals, they are dying. Guess what? Guess what's been happening in the last 100 years? We have executed over 1,000 species in 100 years. And that's different birds, different fishes, different mammals. Mostly it's birds and fish that we don't see every day. But talk to an older person, and they will tell you about the animals that they used to always see, that were always around, that aren't around as much anymore. Why? Because we are destroying the earth. Even if you do not believe in God, and you don't believe in this whole revelation, end of the world thing, you gotta believe that we're destroying this planet. Air quality right now in this planet is at 22% in any populated city. That's not just America, that's around the world. Guess what it was 100 years ago? 94%. We went from air quality of 94% to 22%. Tell me that we're not destroying the earth. And for people that have it hard to breathe, they can tell you the air is bad. They've had good air, and then when they come out into this normal air, it's bad. You ever suck on an oxygen tube? Believe it or not, that's how all air used to taste. 100% oxygen is what we used to have in our planet 200 years ago. And in that 200 years, we went from 100% to 80% to now we're at 22%. That's 22% of the air that you're breathing in, or the air that you're bringing in. Only 22% of that is pure oxygen that's not polluted. That's scary. And it's another sign of the end times. Let's go to number 4, Matthew chapter 24, verse 4 and 5. Watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. He's talking about false prophets right here and false leaderships of churches. First of all, a false prophet is nothing new in this world. We've seen a lot of them. But really, in the past 100 years, we've seen more, and actually in the last 40 years, we've seen more than we ever seen before. You guys heard of like Jim Jones, David Koresh, and then we got faith healers like Joe Overstein, who is a complete falsehood, but he's healing people. The same as Kurt, he actually is. People are being healed. I do believe that. Do I believe that Jesus is healing them? No. I believe that he's leading thousands and thousands and thousands of people astray, and that he's a false prophet, and that there's millions and millions of other false prophets out there. Matter of fact, you go into any church, or into a lot of churches, they don't even preach out of the word anymore, or they extract a lot of the stuff from the word that they say don't apply to us as a society today. You can take those things, if it's homosexuality or living in sin or all these other things, they're not as important to today's Christian. If that isn't a falsehood, I don't know what it is. And that's being adopted by the American churches. All over. Big, huge organizations that used to bring millions and millions of people to Christ are leading millions and millions of people astray. If that's not a sign of the end times, I don't know what it is. Now, we started seeing this right after Jesus' death. The Catholic Church, a lot of the Roman churches that took over were doing the same exact thing. But you got to remember, this is birthing pains. We did not see it at the extent that we see it now. Matter of fact, they say only 20% of America identifies as 100% Christian today. That means that they agree with everything that is in the Bible from Genesis to Revelations, and they believe in all that doctrine. That's 20% of Americans Christians. Now, we have less and less Christians in this country, but only 20% of 100% are actually following and believing Christ. That means no matter how many little I love you Jesus stickers that they're putting on their car, they are not being saved. If you do not believe it into 100%, and here's the scary thing, before, the sheep used to not be condemned for this. But remember the first sign, the increasing knowledge, now everybody has the opportunity to have the truth and know the truth. So they're also being condemned just as much as the false prophets now, because they have the opportunity to educate themselves where they didn't before. It's scary. Now we go to our next one, which is rumors of war, Matthew 24, 6 and 7. Oh, wait, where was I? Oh, yeah. For false prophets, for absent the end times. Watch out for no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and you will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but to see that you are not alarmed, such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. Wars and rumors of wars. Now, pretty much everybody in this room has been alive when a war has happened. And it just seems that wars are inevitable and they've always happened. What we classify as a war today, and what they classified as a war 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, these great battles that you've heard of, these great battles like 1,000 years ago were like 150 men. That's what it was. These great battles that we heard like in Rome or in England, if you actually look at the numbers, it was like 150, 250 people. In Vietnam, we killed more people in war on both sides than ever has happened in any war before or since. World War II, same way. World War I, same way. And if you look at these wars going on in the Middle East that America is indirectly involved in, also, millions are being killed. This has never happened before, and it's coming more and more and more and more. We are at war with nations that we've never been at war at. We're in conflict with nations that we've never been in conflict with. Nations that used to be peaceful neighbors are not so peaceful anymore. And this is happening more and more frequently, and you're going to see it especially with this coronavirus thing coming out. Believe it or not, it's going to start wars because it is a pandemic, a world pandemic, and somebody's going to get greedy, and somebody's going to get greedy of the person that's getting greedy, And we're going to see more wars happen from that. And he also says in 24:7, there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. I used to have a hard time feeding the famine thing because I've been hungry, but I've never been without food, especially in this country. But here's a scary little thing. Do you know 98% of our crops are GMO? That's genetically modified crops.
Yeah.
90% of not just our crops, but guess what else? Our chicken, our beef, our pork, all of our meats, even our salmon now is genetically modified. What does that mean? Well, one, it means that it's not from God anymore. Two, when you genetically modify something with a DNA spec, right? And they do it, the same thing if you watch these little Montesano GMO movies, it's all with the same little DNA atom. All something has to do is attack that one type of atom, a virus like what we're seeing, they attack that one type of atom, and guess what happens to our food source? Nothing. And that's what drives me crazy about this stuff, about everybody stealing toilet paper and hand sanitizer. You ain't gonna have no food. It's gonna be gone. And that's not even the important thing. You need to be getting your soul right, because I'm telling you, this is it. You're on life support. We're all on life support. You got 30 minutes to live. Not to try to scare you, but you read this stuff in the Bible, and if you believe in the Bible, even just a hair, you gotta know. Not just reading it or knowing it. Every single person feels it in their bones, Christian or atheist. We all know it's the end. And that's why the world's getting so crazy, is because people are freaked out. They're fearful because we don't know what comes next. Yeah, and you can say us as Christians, we know what comes next, but we don't know 100% of it. We've never been through this before, so it's scary. And it's okay to be scared if you use that I won't say fear, but if you're using that scaredness to motivate you to get your things right with God, to get things right with your brother, that those things that you said, oh, someday I'm going to go get that done. You go get it done right now. And then number 7, pestilence, disease. Hey, welcome to the coronavirus. Honestly, I'm not too scared about this. I'm a Y2K survivor. So, I've been through this before. But pestilence and disease, again, to hit the numbers. Now, we've always had diseases and we always had famine, right? Or always had diseases, we always had infection. The difference is the modifications and the diseases that are happening now. Because of all these things because basically what we've been doing for the last 100 years in this country, we've been building our own Tower of Babel. We've been saying that we do not need God, and we can modify and make everything better, and we can improve everything that God does. And with these vaccines, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but with these vaccines and everything that we've been putting in our body, we've been making super diseases. A lot of you that went through, like when I was a kid, I think I was in the 5th grade when the AIDS epidemic first hit. And what was scary about that is AIDS didn't just appear in the 1980s. The HIV virus has been around for a very, very, very long time. Do you know what made the HIV virus dangerous? We did. We modified our genetic systems to try to fix something else that God did, and we created a virus that killed millions. And we keep on creating viruses that kill millions. The flu today is stronger than the flu has ever been. Before, if you got like a cold or a flu, if you had a somewhat healthy immune system, you could get through it. They're saying now that a flu can be fatal to anybody even if you're healthy. we're good because of all this technology and everything that we have, right? But when you start messing around with God's designs, you're going to start messing stuff up because we don't know. We don't know His design. We just a little piece of the picture and we keep on messing with things. Then in Matthew 24:7, it also talks about the next sign, earthquakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, we've all survived through earthquakes, but you know, we've had more earthquakes, and they can go back 4,000 years and study the plates and everything. We have had more earthquakes in 100 years than we've had in 1,000 years. That means more earthquakes have happened in this last 100 years than what's happened 1,000 years before. Not saying that they didn't have big earthquakes, because they did, but not at the frequency and not at the level. Do you know North China last year had over, I think, 370 earthquakes in just one small little region? And then there's places like Chile. America, we have been having a lot of earthquakes. And then you want to add all the other things into that too, like tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis. We are off the charts now than we've ever been. And we've done this to ourselves by destroying the earth. And when you start messing with God's plan and you start messing with the earth, these are going to be the consequences that happen. They're happening more and more now. If this is not a sign of the end times, I don't know what it is. We're at the end. We're in the third trimester right now. It's month 8.5. We got a couple weeks before Jesus come home. And don't take that literally, because I don't know if it's going to be a couple of weeks or a couple of years, but I know it's soon. Let's go for the next one. Matthew 24, verse 9 and 10. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other, and many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Newsflash, the world hates Christians. If you do not believe that, go onto any random website, CNN, Como, and just type "I love Jesus," or even go on a Yelp review and of KFC or something and type "I love Jesus." I will promise you that the comments that you will get back will not be very Jesus-like. The world hates us for no reason but for loving Jesus Christ. I mean, we did do, in the name of Jesus, there's been a lot of horrible things that were done.
Yes.
That wasn't from Christ, but that's not why the world hates us. And I used to believe, because I grew up in the 80s and there was a lot of in-the-world talk when I was growing up. I grew up in a Christian household. I've seen all the Rapture movies, read all the books. And I never really could quite thinking, people wouldn't start just killing Christians or anything at the time that we see. Dude, we are that close. We're that close. Matter of fact, a year ago, there was a petition to make Christianity a hate group.
Yeah.
That's the exact opposite of what we are. And how absurd that sounds should be a sign of the end times. That is nuts. A religion that is based on love, caring, and compassion for every person, no matter race, creed, height, or whatever. Now, the world wants a label as a hate group. And if you don't think that a whole country would turn on the one religion just on a whim, you gotta remember Hitler, the Nazis, and the Jews. He almost wiped out a whole entire race over what? For them being Jewish. If you don't think that's gonna happen to us, man, you got another thing coming. And then this verse says that many will turn away once the world starts hating them. We're seeing that already. People are not professing that they are believers of Jesus Christ, even though deep down in their heart they know it's right, because they're afraid of the persecution from their peers. Yep. We don't even got to get to the death part. We just got to get to the, I just don't want to hear nothing from them, or I just don't want to read the comments, or I just don't want to listen to it, or I'm afraid of this, or I'm afraid I'll lose my job, or I'll get in trouble, or whatever. Man, if that's your way of thinking, you got your priorities all mixed up. I'm telling you right now. You need to be saying it loud and proud, because these are the last days that you're going to be able to say it. And if you professing that you love Jesus Christ and that you're a Christian and that you're willing to die for Him, aren't you going to hate it when Christ comes and you're called home and everybody's talking about all their great persecution stories? And at your point, you're all like, well, yeah, I was put in the same situation, but I just hung my head down and then went into my car because I didn't want to hear it from them, or I didn't want to read it. You guys know that there's a mass genocide going on right now in the Sudan of Christians? That's not even the scary part. The scary part is the social genocide that's happening in America, and how many Christians are running and turning from that. If they are ripping the skin off people, I can get you questioning your faith a little bit. Hopefully I would never do that, but I can understand. You know, the crucifixions and watching all that blood and everything like that, that can be scary. What are you scared of right now? That somebody's going to make fun of you? That you don't get invited to the dance? And then you're going to have to tell Peter and Paul and John the Baptist and all those other people, yeah, I had my opportunity, just like you guys, but I don't want to get made fun of. They're going to look at you and like, dude, let me tell you a story. Let's go ahead and go to Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. Because of the increased wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. Here's another thing. And the biggest end sign, originally I put down increased sin. That's a given. The sin that we see today is at record numbers. It's not, and it's like there's no new sin. I mean, like, people were sinning 2,000 years ago, but it's the increased number of sin, even in us, and how much we accept sin. Maybe not in our lives, but we accept it. We are desensitized to it. Remember, like when you used to slip a cuss word to like in front of your grandma or something, how horrified and shocked she was that she heard something like that and it would disrupt her day. Most of the curse words are coming from grandma's mouth these days. Not our grandma, but other grandmas. It's because we accepted this sin. Just for a little test of this, when you go home, go jump on the interweb and look at newspaper readings from 100 years ago. And you'll see what the big taglines that everybody were shocked about, you know, because Joe was caught sleeping with Dan, or, you know, all these other, I'm sure I've seen a newspaper where 2 guys were caught and it was huge news for like 2 weeks. That type of stuff wouldn't even make Showtime or HBO today. You know, because it's just not shocking enough. But I'm sure, go back and you read what people were freaked out about, or the crimes that were happening that people were scared about. And then you look at it today and it's like an everyday thing. Matter of fact, crime and sin is so rapid. I don't know if you guys belong to like any of the groups like the Compton Files or anything like that. Most of that I laugh at because it's like somebody from Ohio is all like, I went to a supermarket and I seen people doing drugs in the parking lot, and it's like, whatever, dude. I went to the supermarket, I seen people doing drugs in the produce section. Like, that's welcome to Tacoma. But it's sad That I've seen so much sin and so much of this evilness in my lifetime that it doesn't even make an impact on me anymore. You know, the stuff that our children watch today, there's no way my mom would ever let me watch anything like that in the house. Matter of fact, if something that, like, you know, what's on today, if I was in the house when I was a kid, she would have probably burnt down the house because that was just way too much. I mean, I couldn't watch The Simpsons or like The Wonder Years or anything like that because that was too worldly.
Yep, that's right.
Not now. Not today. You know, yeah, Simpsons is tame compared. But remember when it used to be shocking? Remember when you guys that are old enough, Elvis Presley rotating his hips. How that freaked the world out. Now we got people naked on stage doing weird things with teddy bears and all types of stuff. Gyrating hips doesn't freak you out. I'm just trying to let you into the window how much we desensitize ourselves to sin. How much sin is in this world. Because we forget. We do. If all you see is sick and dying isn't going to shock you anymore. Well, most of us was raised with sick and dying, with this evil pestilence everywhere around us, and it's kind of freaking me out. Let's go ahead and go to, put your finger in Matthew, because we're going to come right back to it. But let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. 3:1. Yeah, 3:1. But mark this. There will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power, have nothing to do with such people. I don't even know what to say to it because I just described the world that we're living in. It shouldn't be a shock to any of you, but I do want you to take a little bit of trip down memory lane because even though we're all not that old, we can all remember a time when things were just a little bit different. When they weren't as bad as they are today. When people aren't the way that they are today. Again, go on the internet and start reading comment sections about anything. It could be a story about a guy who rescued an owl, and people will be calling for that guy to be killed because he shouldn't have been touching an endangered owl in the first place, or other such nonsense. People do not care about people. We say we do to make ourselves feel better as a whole, but the love isn't there. We talked about it before when in the increased sin, about the absence of love. We do, not just in this country, but in this world, we have an absence of love for people. And on both sides of the political spectrum and everything else, we care more about what is right for us than what is happening to the person. I read a story, or seen a story on the internet the other day. A 16-year-old kid got drunk, got behind the wheel, killed the 3 passengers in his car, and killed 2 other people. And even though this kid did a horrible thing, he was 16 years old, dumb, made a mistake. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be punished, but what people were saying in the comment section about what should happen to this person, there was no compassion. There was no love. There was no sympathy. It was like, he did something wrong. He needs it. This is what the death penalty is for. For a kid making a mistake. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't be punished. He made a mistake. He took people's lives away. He impacted many people's lives. It's horrible. But man, we were all 16. That could have been any one of us at any time. But we don't care because the evil that rages inside of us is more powerful than the love that rages inside of us. Because we feed it every day. We're not feeding that love anymore. When I was a kid, not that I'm even that old person, neighbors looked out for neighbors. You seen a little kid walking around on the street? Any adult would go up there and go, hey, where do you live? Let me get you home. Da-da-da-da-da. Right. Nobody cares anymore. Matter of fact, I say if you see a little kid on the street, to protect yourself, you better just not go talk to him. Or you better not go do this, or you better not go to that to protect yourself. We've been more concerned about and protecting ourselves and watching over ourselves, and that's what the problem with us. And that was what the problem with Tower of Babylon was. That was the problem with the earth in Noah's time, is people started caring and considering more about themselves and trying to protect themselves and then putting faith in God. Let's go ahead and go back to Matthew 24, and we're going to wrap this up. 24:14. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. A little background on the beginning of Christianity and Christianity. So after Jesus died, apostles came forth like Paul and Peter. Christianity was known in just a small little region in the world. In their time, it was a big achievement that it went from a small little region and it followed the lines of the Roman Empire. So in today's perspective, that is about 2% of the world's population that was affected by Christianity. 99.9% of the world today knows of Jesus Christ and Christianity. And I would say 100%, but I know that there's probably some small tribe on the Andes or in Australia or something that I don't know everything, so I'm just giving my but everybody has the opportunity to know, to learn about Jesus and all these other mysteries that has never happened before. Now on a more personal spectrum, do you know the highest number of people that are dropping out of Christianity in America right now? It is white Americans. There are less white Americans that are Christians in the United States than ever before. Do you know what the rising number of Christians are? It's people in North Korea, it's people in the Middle East, and it's the African American community in America. And I believe that the reason it is because like the African American community was oppressed from religion and wasn't able to know all the ministries for so long in our planet, that God's giving everybody that last chance, that last opportunity. So we're seeing huge numbers of Christians in places where there was no Christianity before, or the people that were oppressed by Christianity are becoming the largest numbers of Christians. If you ever listen to new Christian rap lately, or see what that scene of the thug Christian movement that's going on, it is amazing and the numbers are astounding. Do you know that there's more Christians that are in South Compton right now, and in the Bronx, in New York, and in places in New Jersey than there is in the Midwest or in the South? That's insane. The numbers have reversed in the last 10 years. And you know why the numbers have reversed? Because the end times is coming. God's giving everybody that opportunity, everybody that chance. All I can say now is the same thing that I opened this up with. Maybe instead of concerning yourself with toilet paper and hand sanitizer, you need to start doing some self-inventory on your soul. You know, to quote my mom, it doesn't take the end of the world. Leaving this church here, you can get in a head-on collision, or whatever, and you gotta face God. You gotta face God at some time. But as Christians, I think it's our responsibility that we need to start talking about the end times more. We need to start talking about these signs of the end times more. I would say not to scare somebody, but yeah, to scare somebody. Because it's coming. There's no denying it. And if we don't do our part, I mean, I'm not saying that you're not going to go to heaven for it, but again, you know, maybe here in a few couple weeks, you're going to be talking to guys like Peter or John the Baptist, and do you want your story? Well, I was going to say something, but I was afraid that they were going to make fun of me. We're not talking or anything anymore. That's all I got. Love you guys.